Today we're going to talk about how do you anticipate future challenges in your business. I'm going to show you how to peer into the crystal ball, no pun intended, that you already have that you probably don't even know exists. Secondly, I'm going to show you how to tap into a source of information that can tell you when a storm is brewing even before you can smell the rain. Let's get started. It's very easy to get caught up into the day-to-day life of business, actually doing the tasks that you have to do, answering emails, phone calls, going to meetings, getting on Zoom, and oftentimes we're not really dialed into what's going on around us. And so that's why environmental scanning is so important when it comes to anticipating challenges. We can't have our head down because we're missing all the things that are going on around us. So when we think about environmental scanning, there's different levels of scanning. That could be within your own organization. Do you know what's happening with your employees? Do you know what's happening within different departments? What about the people you outsource to? What about your strategic partners? Are you aware of all that's going on around you and maybe how tides might be changing in some ways? Are you starting to see more negative customer sentiment? Are you starting to see online more negative mentions? These are all part of environmental scanning. But then there's a larger field of view as well. What about your industry as a whole? Are we starting to see some things change there? What about your community or country or the world at large? And so one of the first steps to anticipating challenges is actually opening our eyes and being aware of what's happening around us. If we're in firefighting mode, we miss out on all these things. But if we make sure that we plan enough time to actually be in touch with those around us and have good leadership that can report what they're seeing as well, that's going to be the first piece of anticipating those challenges. Let's talk about that crystal ball that I mentioned earlier. And that would be customer feedback. Do you get any type of feedback from your customers? Do you send them surveys? Do they fill out any forms to talk about their experience? If not, you want to start gathering as much insights as you can. You could even have your people call your customers and ask them key questions. Ask them open-ended questions. What is it we're currently not providing that you'd like to see us provide? Do you think our service is improving or slipping? Why or why not? What challenges are you having that aren't being addressed right now? And just be open to hearing their answers. Oftentimes, customers can give you feedback that's going to tell you where you need to go. I'll give you an example. I think one of the best examples is Blockbuster. Blockbuster is a company that had the opportunity to buy Netflix, but they ended up backing out of the deal. Now, why did they do that? No one was competing at their level. They didn't have any real competition. There was no store that had video and game rentals that was anywhere near as large as they were globally. And so they were able to rest on their laurels, or so they thought. But the fact of the matter is that if they really wanted to know what was coming in the future and what kind of decisions they should be making, all they had to do was ask their cashiers. And their cashiers would have told them every day people come into these stores upset that the movies they drove here for are not in stock. Every day people come here upset because they're paying late fees because they forgot to return a video. And so if Blockbuster had course corrected to acknowledge those shifts, they probably would have bought Netflix or at least had a different business structure. Another good example are taxi companies. Globally, they're having their lunches eaten by app companies that don't even own vehicles. Why is that? Because they weren't paying attention to the fact that their customers all over the world would call into dispatchers saying things like, I ordered a vehicle 30 minutes ago. Where is it? Or I can't get a vehicle to pick me up in this neighborhood or that neighborhood. But rather than listening to their dispatchers or the complaints of their customers, they figured, who are they going to go to? What choices do they have? But what we've learned today is that there's always choices, and there's always some type of industry interrupter that's willing to solve the challenges that we're not willing to solve for our customers ourselves. So once you start seeing the things that are popping up in the environment, you see signals like the beginning of little trends. After you grab those customer insights, internal and external customers, that's your team members, as well as those external customers you're serving, well, now it's time for you to do some scenario planning. Now's when you start thinking about what are some of the things that are likely to happen, especially those things we don't want to happen, but maybe two alternative futures, and how can we start planning for those things? Again, we're looking at the information we're gathering from customer insights as well as our environmental scanning to help us in creating these scenarios. Now, we only have so much time today, so I can't go into a whole lot of detail about how to do scenario planning. However, I encourage you, again, there's more information coming, but if you want more information on how to do scenario planning, check out my video entitled, How Can Scenario Planning Help Managers Predict the Future? All right, let's get back to it. With the rate of change increasing, it is impossible for leaders to be able to stay on top of challenges if they're not continuously learning and being educated on new techniques and technologies. And so if you're not in continuing education, and if you don't have your management team and really most of your organization involved in some level of professional development, you're going to be wholly unable to stay on top of challenges because you're not going to be aware of the solutions that are available on the market to you. So one of the things you want to start building in, if you haven't already, is continuous education around new technologies and around new ways of thinking and solving problems in times of fast-paced change. For my consulting clients, they bring me in and I sit with their leadership team and we look at how future ready are they? What information are they leaving themselves open to? How have they reevaluated their business model considering things that we're seeing on the horizon right now? What are steps they can start to take right now to ensure that they're future-proof? These are all part of anticipating challenges and preparing ahead of time. But it does take an organized effort to do this. It's not just a matter of sitting in a meeting and brainstorming one day. There's actually a process behind making sure that you're future-proof or reinventing your business model as needed. So let's just have a moment of honesty here. Many of us in here have a hard time anticipating change because we're really not forward thinkers. Most humans actually base their opinion on what's going to happen in the future on what has already happened in the past. We assume the same patterns will keep on happening. But the truth of the matter is that's just not reality today. And so just because a certain pattern existed for the last 100 years or even 30 years doesn't mean it's going to continue on. And so how do you look to the future when you don't have anything to base that on? Part of it's just being open and brainstorming. Part of it's acknowledging this past bias. And as you're sketching out the possibilities, when you hear yourself basing something that's happening right now on something that happened 60 years ago, asking yourself, is this likely to be something that's repeatable? Or is this my past bias interfering in my ability to anticipate new challenges? Now, unfortunately, we don't have enough time today for me to take you through all the processes that I take my consulting clients. But what I can do is give you a free gift that'll give you just a little taste, a teeny taste of what I do for my clients. And that is, if you look in the description of this video, you'll find that there's a link to download my Future Ready Playbook. This playbook will get you started in thinking strategically and thinking about different things that you can do now to be better prepared for the future.